Problem. I think we're live. So, hello everybody. Happy Thursday. Got a rare Blake episode tonight.
A rare Blake sighting in the wild.
I'm excited. Barry Kirby's out on holiday, as he would say.
Oh, that's so funny. Having European parents and saying things like that, like saying that to my colleagues that I'm going on holiday, you just always get me in trouble when I was younger. Like, what are you talking about? You're going on vacation? Is that what that means? Oh, man. Well, I'm glad that he's taking a little bit of a break. That guy works really hard.
He does. Yeah. I need a vacation. I'm taking one in May.
Excellent. Any good plans for it?
Just going home, seeing the family.
Very
and then,
cool.
Doing the Disneyland trip. And,
very cool.
Yeah, it'll be cool since Revan's a little bit older now.
Oh, that'll be so fun.
Shoot, I don't like saying his name on stream. Oops. Well, there you go.
You can always take it out of the live publish, can't you?
Oh, it's going to be out of the live.
There you go.
Thankfully, it was at the very beginning. A minute and a half in, I can trim it.
Yeah, it's an easy cut. Easy cut.
Yeah, I don't like saying like names of my family for their protection, not mine.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I used to feel weird about saying like Elise's name on here for her
really?
Privacy or whatever. But then she was on the show. I didn't worry so much about it.
She's like, on the show. Well,
cat's out of the bag, kids.
In fact, Elise is out at Healthcare Symposium right now getting us a bunch of interviews.
Yeah, holy moly. She crushed the block on that for y'all.
Yeah.
You guys got some serious stuff off of her trip to the old Orlando.
So full disclosure, I've only heard one of them so far, but like based on what she was telling me, I'm really excited to produce all those and put those out there as some bonus stuff for you all because Healthcare Symposium's one of our favorites here at the show, at least.
Yeah, I figured that she was going to end up talking to a couple of people that are like just mutual friends from years over time, but she even reached out to some interesting just like speakers and stuff. So
yeah,
really,
that's
really
awesome.
Stoked for those.
I'm super excited to hear some of those things. In fact, by the way, while we're talking about medical human factors, all that stuff, we had a little announcement at the Healthcare Symposium, which I'm not sure if it was like widely publicized or not, but if you were there, you may have seen a little banner for a new podcast called Safe and Effective. Look at that. There's the overlay. So Safe and Effective is actually a new podcast from us here over at Human Factors Cast. It's Heidi Merzad is the host, and Heidi's been on the show a couple times. This is going to be a really cool standalone podcast, and it's something that like literally we've had in the hopper forever. We've always wanted to do kind of a standalone human factors, medical human factors, healthcare podcast. And so Heidi and I have been working together over the last couple months to really iron out a format and make some really good headway there. So look forward to that. Hey, Barry's in the chat here. Hey guys. So I wish I had a laptop to mess with the show notes as I watch. Hey, speaking of messing with the show notes, I thought this was you, Barry, coming into the show notes. Someone came in and said that we allow edit access on our Patreon for our Patreon members and our lab members, and someone came in and edited in right before my last name, Testosta. So
I thought you did that for some reason.
No.
It's been a while since I've been here, so I didn't know you let Patreons do that for you.
Yeah. So it says, I'm your host, Nick Testosterone.
You have to say that now. It's out in the world.
It's out in the world.
There's the intro.
Oh, man. No, I'm not going to say that, but it's funny. It's funny. I applaud whoever did that. It's hilarious. Speaking of our patrons, if you want to, this is now a dial-in pre-show, a dial-in post-show. So Barry says it's not him.
I
Oh
don't
man,
believe you, Barry. I think it was you.
it might have been him. But yeah, so this is now a pre-show, post-show, call-in show. You can call in, give us your thoughts about either tonight's story, human factors related things, whatever you want. If you're a Patreon, that link is in our Discord under the Patreon channel. You can join us by clicking on that link. Just let us know. There's a little private chat when you get in here, what you want to talk about. We'll bring you on. And we've had some pretty good attendance over the last couple of weeks. We've had folks from our lab jump in. We've had folks from our Patreon jump in. We've had patrons who have become lab members jump in and talk about some stuff. So it's been pretty good over the last couple of weeks. So if you want to do that, please feel free to. Our story tonight is all about the future of work, which we'll talk more in full about what this means later. But it's an interesting report about sort of where work is going. I don't want to put the cart before the horse here because there's so much to talk about with this story. I don't know, Blake. What else can I say to tease it?
I mean, it kind of touches on everything, right? Like how execs think about jobs, how the job market is now, and the potential impact of AI. There's lots of just kind of juicy bits on there that I think are going to be interesting to talk about. And I think it's a topic on everybody's mind, given, the macroeconomic climate, the rise of AI, and the variance of how people think about it. But yeah, it's a cool story. I definitely have my gripes with it, which I'll air
same.
live. Yeah.
Same. Look, we don't pick them. We don't pick them anymore. We've outsourced picking these stories. So this is stuff that you all want to hear about, and that's great. We do have some problems with the methodology, I guess, is really what we're beefing about here. But
absolutely,
we'll get to that.
Can I air how much of a goofball I am and how long I've been on here? That I've been trying to type a message to Barry, and I've just now realized that he's on YouTube. Type in the chat.
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought he was just like chilling in one of these private chats.
Oh man.
Oh wow. Restream.
It's okay, man.
Interesting.
So the nice thing about the way in which we produce our show notes now is that a lot of it is automated. The bad thing is that it's more supervisory control. I have to look over to make sure that some of this automation
does
its job right. I mean, it gets like 80-90% of the way there some weeks.
I mean, that's kind of cool because it probably puts you in a good position for, what you may have to face in the future.
But then I get super comfortable with like what came up, and I didn't review it like for a couple weeks, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Why didn't I review this? So I'm doing those. I'm doing those checks now.
You need AI to check your AI and let you know you need to check your AI.
You know what's funny is I've almost built that mechanism into the show notes to double check.
That's amazing.
The show notes generator is already 26 steps long, which, by the way, was used to be like 6 steps.
Oh wow.
Like I found some berries in here this week. Some, like Barry initial reaction, and I'm like, no, Barry's not here. It should be Blake. So it's like some weirdness like that names. Where, well, I know, but it's like, if I were to have a guest that was not you, and it's like their first time on the show, and they're like confused about the order of things, and then you see a Barry, and they're like, what's Barry's not here? What is he?
What's a Barry? Am I Barry?
Right? Is my name Barry now?
This is me now. Oh my, too fun. And no problem, Barry. That's just me having to learn how Restream works. It's good. I feel old.
It seems like you are not what's the terms that they used in there? The upskilling. You're
Upskilling.
not upskilling on your restreams.
Yeah, I'm still over here using OBS and Twitch chat, making my own overlays, not using.
Hey, look, here's the thing. OBS and Twitch chat are pretty great. But like, I don't know. I've just never had the rig to run it reliably where I could build it. But this is so I don't need anything fancy for what we do here. So this has just kind of been, the thing.
Also, too, like live streaming on YouTube and like because you're doing multi-platform from here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like when I do any streaming, I don't do it on anything but Twitch because Twitch is the only platform for now that lets you get away with just like playing music and not getting super struck by it. But anyway, that's just my preference. But this is way better because there's like way less overhead. This is why automation and technology is fun. So you don't have to like build a whole bunch of overlays, tweak them, and all that kind of stuff. It's all here integrated.
So are you telling me that when you stream games, you're not streaming to LinkedIn to like...
I think about it, but I mean, that's definitely not going to get me a job. I'll tell you that much. Oh, wow.
Well, speaking of
I would stream to YouTube because like the split is way better for games and stuff or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
But just like the copyright is awful. And you can get got even on like game soundtrack content sometimes.
Yeah.
It's just not worth
tricky.
it.
It's tricky.
But we can do that. That's another like algorithm job that's, having to calibrate itself.
Yeah. I was going to say, speaking of overlays, they've made some pretty cool improvements, I guess, to Restream. So like we can do things like this now, support the show. Like in the top right left corner there, like
nice.
Right up here.
QR code.
That's kind of cool. We can also do, that's the HFES thing. Hey, we can do this. Look at that. You can scan that and get an It Depends sticker for $3.
Oh, wow.
The show.
What are you, Apple TV right now?
And for the low price of $2.99, an It Depends sticker can be yours.
Did you see that like they did that for the Mandalorian? Like there was a special Disney shop for that.
Oh yeah,
that made me so mad. I was like, come on, guys, that's ridiculous. Don't QR code people into just buying stuff because you have exclusive content. That's gnarly. Get out of here.
Wait, they put the QR code on the Mandalorian? Is that what happened?
Yeah. So when they first released the newest season of the Mandalorian, there was a QR code within the Disney whatever Plus app that would take you to an exclusive store or something like that.
No, I didn't know about that. That's marketing genius, right? I mean,
it is. It's not bad.
Well, we got an exclusive store right here for you.
There you go. Yeah. Support Nick and Barry. Get those.
The lab, really. It's the
put
lab
on your head.
Well, I mean, here's the thing: is like everything. Like I genuinely don't take a dime from all the stuff. In fact, I'm like probably hundreds,
probably in the bag,
maybe thousands of dollars in the bag with the amount of money that I spent on this. So, yeah. But I mean, there's
and the QR code. Oh my!
Oh hey, thank you.
That's a vibe. Wow.
Thank you. We'll see if they purchase. But
I mean,
But yeah, I mean, so lots of money in the hole. But I mean, all that stuff comes right back into the show. It supports like literally the platform that we're on right now. It supports the hosting that we do for the podcast. All the development costs, all that stuff. I like I said, don't see a dime. Barry is sending me. That's cool. So Barry has just sent me a screenshot of his perspective from YouTube, and whenever I share this thing, it throws in a little link into YouTube with a yeah, so you can click on it there. That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that, Barry. I appreciate that.
Restream. That's pretty sick. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
So at the end of the show, now we're gonna go. It depends. Throw that up there.
Got a sticker.
But or like anytime we say it, I used to have that. I used to have that overlay, right? Like this guy. It depends, right?
Nice.
And then we also have this one, but I think the one I just showed you all is a little bit less obtrusive. And you can support the show by doing so. All right, I'm done. I'm done having enough fun with that.
You'll see it again at the end of the show.
You'll see it perhaps if we say that magical phrase.
Just in case.
Yeah, it's just there. Okay, so show notes. I'm good on my end, I think. Have you put in thoughts for the It Came Froms at all?
Do you need me to put them in there? I'm better off just like hot shotting it off the top of my head.
Dude, go for it.
Okay,
just don't take my answers.
Off the top of the dome. We'll see how it goes. I read these and like had some visceral reactions, so it should be good. To one of them, maybe two of them. I don't know.
Oh man.
Actually,
okay.
How much time do we have? We got a few minutes.
We got 15 minutes.
Let's go. Okay, I have a clarifying question, so I don't sound totally stupid on this pod.
Yeah.
This last one, it came from Reddit. It says 13-year-old senior designer. Does that mean a designer that has 13 years of experience, or a 13-year-old that is like just a designer in high school? What is happening?
It's 13-year senior designer. So I'm assuming that they've been in their role for 13 years.
It just seems like a really strange way to phrase it.
Yeah, let's see how they originally frame it. I've been in the UX field full time for about 13 years, and then our little friendly AI rephrased it to as a 13-year senior designer.
Come on, AI, get it together. As a 13-year senior designer. I read that and I was like, wow, how are you burned out already? That's not good. But kids probably be working really hard at this point.
How about I'm gonna rephrase this. As a senior UXer with 13 years experience. There we go. That's good. Yes, I'd be surprised if a 13-year-old was getting pretty burned out.
I don't know. I was just making sure that I was giving advice to the correct audience.
No, you got it. Yeah, no, good,
good. Don't give up. It's basically that.
I know the kids are great now, but that's like my son being a senior designer. He is 13.
Barry, your son probably is a senior designer, all right? Like, I have no doubt he probably is really good at design.
Look, here's the thing. Barry offloads a lot of his tasks to his kids as a way, not like in a minions do my work type of thing for me, but like in a really responsible parenting way where he like gives them tasks to help them build skills. And so someone has to do the work.
Perfect answer.
But I mean, so Barry does that. And I'm wondering, Barry, do you feel like your son would be capable of designing? I know one of your children does art. And so does that artistic bone run throughout the family? And do you think it would be like a human factors UX designer? And while we wait for Barry. So I was going to say, so yes, we have Safe and Effective. We announced that out there. Heidi is the host. And that actually brings our total Human Factors Cast network of podcasts to 4 shows now. Look at that. We got 4 shows. We got on Blake, I'll need your help a little bit on this one. On the left, we have Human Factors Cast, and of course Barry's show, 1202, the Human Factors Podcast. And on the right, we have Human Factors Minute.
Up there top.
You go. And then down below, we got Safe and Effective.
That new. There you go.
New. So that brings us up to a total of 4. I should say public shows, because we actually produce a lot more on the Patreon side. We have something like 3 or 4 Patreon only podcasts. or I shouldn't say Patreon only. It's weird because we have some overlap, right? We have the full audio version of our show that we throw up on Patreon. We have Human Factors Minute, but that's a full library of Human Factors Minute, and it's a weekly show over there instead of 3 times a month. And then we have Roundtable Infinite, which you and I, Blake, were on a long time ago. That's discontinued, but that's another one that we have over there. And then trying to think of what else. Roundtable's coming out. Did I say Roundtable?
You did.
Yeah, Roundtable's coming out. And then of course, feel like there's one more. I'm losing track of all these podcasts.
It's too many podcasts, man. It's easy to lose track.
It's a podcast empire. Barry says, me and my wife are engineers, but all 3 kids are artistic. So your guess is as good as mine. I think they would be fab UX designers, but we'll see. Our 18-year-old works for us at the moment. Yeah, that's what I was saying. You enlist your children for not for child labor, but for
for child labor,
portfolio building, and child labor.
That's an awesome combo, because if y'all are both engineers, there's definitely some highly intelligent thoughts going on there, and then you got really
careful with your words, Blake.
Kids. No, I just can't talk today. And so in that case, I don't know, that could make a really dangerous UX designer. So that's really cool, because I'm definitely not artistic at all. I'm very like, I have to do a lot of research to make my designs. But the engineering side, I understand pretty well. But being a combo platter of like having a little bit of an engineering set of skills and being really artistic, that's a cool field to run into.
Barry, have to get some new staff somehow. And I guess
there you go.
I guess the human factor scene in the UK must be really really scarce. I know he brings that up all the time, but it must be really scarce.
That is so funny to me. I actually had like a conversation with Elise about that, because we were both kind of shocked, because she was actually telling me from like a healthcare perspective, the US is very, very far ahead in terms of human factors when it comes to like international. And for some reason, I had it in my head, and I think Elise did too, that the UK was going to be farther ahead in the human factors realm than the US would be, or than a lot of other countries would be. Could be a bias thing. A lot of people from the UK that, focus on human factors in healthcare, but it was interesting to find out that the US is kind of like holding the gold standard for that in healthcare.
Yeah, I always appreciate Barry's international perspective, just because like we get so wrapped up in our own ways over here that sometimes we forget some of the stuff. For human factors, right? Healthcare in the UK is well behind the US for human factors, but in terms of other things,
system itself,
yeah, like being
the important part,
that you're leaps and bounds ahead of us. So, all right, what do we got? We got 7 minutes before showtime. Let's take one more look over the notes here. Just making sure I'm not forgetting anything. You got your one more thing?
Oh, I do.
Okay, great.
No, I don't.
Okay, well, throw it in there. Yeah, throw it in there.
Whew, these notes are long.
But thorough, and we have a lot to go on, so it's good. It's not like we're going to run out of stuff for an hour-long show, right? Right?
I hope not, with as much as in here. Holy moly, we'd really be in trouble. But it's been a while, and we don't have Barry to save me. So this is, I don't know. I'm sketching out.
It's okay. I'm sure he'll throw some stuff in the chat if he's not busy. He'll throw some softballs.
Excellent.
You know what's wild? And I'm going to talk about this before we go live, because I can hear it in the background. Maybe you can too. But like I recently bought. I went thrifting, and I had an itch. And Blake, maybe you'll appreciate this because it's music related. But I had an itch to like play piano again, or keyboard really. And so I went thrifting, and I was like, on a whim, one weekend, I was like, I bet you I could find a good keyboard for like a decent price, right? And so I went in, I got a like $200 keyboard for something like $50, or it was a good deal, and so I started, trying to get the muscle memory back, and my son's sitting there, and he goes, "No, Daddy." He pushes me aside, and then he starts playing with the keys, right? And so like I can't get any good quality time in while he's awake. But the like really amazing thing is that he has his own like little keyboard, right? Like one of those ones from Target that's like literally this big, and he's just sitting there plucking the keys. And he really likes a Sesame Street song. I'd like to visit, or I don't want to live on the moon, right? And don't want to sing it for copyright reasons. You can go listen to it, but I would just play it for him by ear, and I'd show him the keys. And he's got to the point now where he can play a lot of it, and he's 3.5, and I'm just like amazed by it. That, I mean, like I was plucking on a keyboard when I was pretty young too, but I don't remember being able to string together like it seems pretty young, and it's just amazing to me, I guess, to like when he does it, he just feels so proud of himself. And when he can't get it, he gets frustrated, and he just keeps practicing the same thing, and it's just really fun to watch.
That's a good sign. Determined.
Yeah.
That's really sick. I love that, man.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Share. Yeah, it is. Super cool. I mean, goodness, if I get frustrated playing parts on piano, I have to walk away. I can't sit there and keep figuring it out. What's playing by ear? It drives me nuts.
What's really frustrating to me is that like I probably had like 10, 20 songs I knew how to play, and this was like back in high school, like early college, and like I said, I had that itch to like play again, just have something so I could pluck out music, and like getting so frustrated with like, come on, muscles, I know you know how to do this, like the muscle memory aspect of it, trying to replay some of those songs. And then once you get it, you're like, oh, okay. And then the crazy thing is when that muscle memory just takes over, and it's like, whoa, how am I doing this? It's like, it's just so amazing. That's another amazing thing, is like when it just kicks in and you're like, whoa, here I go. Like, that's incredible. And it made me feel like it made me go back to some of our conversations about like downloading skills and like the Matrix. So it's like, whoa, wow, I don't want to play this. This is cool. I don't know. It's really strange to get back into something after years of not doing it. Like same thing with like riding a bike. I haven't done that in 10 years, probably 9 years, 8 years, probably. But still, like, it's like riding a bike would be the phrase that comes to mind. But it's not quite like riding a bike to get back on a musical instrument sometimes. At least for me, I don't know, it's a struggle to get that muscle memory going again for the songs that I wanted to play.
I feel like guitar is the one I struggle the most with when it comes to, if I step away for a long time, the ramp back up is awful. And I don't even want to play it anymore sometimes because the ramp is so bad, which is why I try and be really consistent about playing for the past few years, because it just makes it more enjoyable. Keyboard was crazy for me because it was something I never played, and I started picking up over the past year. And it's the only instrument I've ever played that feels intuitive to play. I like it. I don't have to practice that much. The muscle memory comes really fast. I have a weird inkling it's watching my mom play when I was a kid, and like sitting there and her teaching me songs. But yeah, I've been really enjoying the keyboard a lot. But the muscle memory thing is crazy because I feel like it goes a lot faster than other instruments. Like drums and guitar just go really slow, but keyboard seems to fly like riding a bike.
Like riding a bike. All right. Well, hey, we're just about ready for the show. Blake, any last checks that we need to make before we go live here, buddy?
I think we're good.
All right. Well, with that, then we're gonna go ahead and go live. I guess we're live, but we're gonna go ahead and throw up this little
actual
intro.
Live.
Yeah, and then we'll be back right after this.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Oh, yes. Hello, everybody. It's episode 278. We're recording this live on March 30th, 2023. This is Human Factors Cast. I'm your host, Nick Roome. If you're new around here, and I'm joined today by a rare Mr. Blake Arnsdorff.
Super rare, but it's good to be back. Thanks for having me, Nick.
Hey,
Hello,
Blake.
everybody. Hope it's a good day.
Thank you for being on the show. Barry is out on holiday this week. He'll be back soon. We got a great show for y'all tonight. We're going to be discussing the Future of 2023 report. Then we'll be answering some questions from the community, covering topics such as how to deal with defensive and uncooperative product owners and developers, what to do if you're feeling hopeless, and advice to you long-timers that are getting burned out. But first, some programming notes. Hey, this is an exciting thing. Healthcare Symposium, the Human Factors and Ergonomic Society International Symposium on Healthcare and Human Factors. It's a long name, but we have coverage for you coming soon. Elise is out on assignment. She is out there gathering a bunch of interviews with folks that are going to be, from what I hear, amazing. Right, Blake? That's the word on the street.
They're going to be more than amazing. They're going to be absolutely epic, and I can't wait for y'all to hear them.
I'm excited to hear them too. In fact, I haven't actually heard them. The symposium actually wrapped up, I think, yesterday. Is that right? Or earlier today?
Yep.
Something like that.
I think it was yesterday.
It just wrapped up. So we're still getting all that audio packaged up, sent out for you. But look forward to that. And speaking of the Healthcare Symposium, if you weren't aware, there was an announcement there by Heidi Mirzad, who's been on the show before. Heidi is going to be the host of her very own podcast here in the Human Factors Cast network of podcasts. It's called Safe and Effective, the Medical Human Factors Podcast. The trailer is live now. You can go and subscribe. It's coming in April. We've been working hard on that for the last couple months, so I'm really excited for you all to hear that. It's something, like I said, we've worked hard on it for the last couple months. This has been years in the hopper that we've been trying to kick off for years. So we're really excited about that. Of course, there's 1202. Barry's not here to tell us about it this week, but he is really excited about that interview with Jenny Radcliffe, who is the People Hacker, the other Human Factors podcast that you see when you search in Human Factors. So go check that out on 1202. But for now, it's time we get into the news. That's right. This is the part of the show all about Human Factors news. Blake, what is the story this week?
All right, this week we're talking about the future of work in 2023. So the shift towards remote and hybrid work models is permanent and has significant implications for the future of work. Companies need to prioritize talent retention and offer flexible workplace options to grow and succeed. And organizations that increased their retention rates over the past 3 years saw nearly a 20% increase in growth. Remote working strategies can also drive employee retention, with 65% of executives reportedly using this approach to keep top talent. Additionally, companies that offer hybrid models of on-site and remote working options have seen an increase in their retention rates, and the workplace model is no longer just about productivity, but it's also about providing an experiential and emotional environment for its employees. Automation and digitization are top investment priorities for executives and can simplify work, amplify effectiveness and convenience, as well as increase productivity, usage, and experience. However, it's also important to diversify talent pools and invest in proper training to drive growth and success. Successful businesses in the future are going to need to be flexible, automated, hybrid, diverse, skills first, and experiential to attract and retain the best talent, as well as thrive in a constantly changing environment. So, Nick, what are your thoughts on all of these crazy details about how to keep a thriving workforce in 2023?
So this is an interesting piece, especially paired with, as we were talking about in the pre-show, some of the socioeconomical greater things going on with a lot of the other trends. Let's talk about this. There's a recent article that detailed sort of how many jobs will be lost to artificial intelligence over the next few years. This report seems to be fairly optimistic with sort of how we conduct work in the near future and what our roles will be and how businesses can adapt. Most of this stuff matches my gut check, but that's coming from a background where I am a remote worker. And and there's some generalizations being made in this article that are mostly due to mostly around centered around various industries, I should say, that are like tech or office jobs where you could work from home. But I think when we talk about the future of work, it's fairly limited with, like, how does this apply to factory workers or other labor intensive jobs? How is the technology that is coming out now, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, they mentioned that in there too, how is that going to impact those types of jobs? And I feel like that's a big blind spot in this report, and maybe it's not meant to do that, but that's kind of where my initial thoughts are. Where are your thoughts, Blake?
This is one of those things where I question the methods behind it. I feel like this is just seeming like it's making some intensive claims of like we're seeing increased growth and retention from the past 3 years, and we're also seeing like if you hire the top talent that you're going to have a really good retention rate. However, this seems like it's sampling a very small pool of 2,500 execs in what you kind of mentioned is doesn't seem a very diversified set of companies, or enough so that we're getting like a fuller picture outside of the tech realm. Which, okay, I get that. But still, I'm wondering what that looks like if we fast forward to in the past 1 to 2 years versus 3 years ago. How does that really work? Uh, because one thing that I'm concerned about here is we're not really seeing the big layoffs that have happened in some of these large tech companies that offer and prioritize that more experiential side of work on top of offering hybrid and remote work. Because there are plenty of companies that have gone the opposite direction and gone back to forcing employees back into the office, especially if they are smaller companies in some cases, or requiring hybrid work versus remote work. So although it does provide kind of a lighter side to the potential future of work when it comes to remote or hybrid schedules, I'm just not super excited about its small sample size and the focus on execs versus employee experience. Um, and that's one big thing that I'm seeing missing here. The
Yeah.
other that I thought was kind of interesting is this big focus on hiring for talent for retention, but no mention on hiring for cultural fit, which definitely tends to give you a better retention rate than just talent alone. I think you can see that again in a large tech company setting. In a lot of cases, you see turnover for various reasons, but you do see a lot of retention when you've got somebody who's a good cultural fit for your team. Um, then the other thing I was hoping to see here but didn't is if companies are more transparent, maybe they're then attracting the people they're looking for. Versus like I don't know if you've experienced this, but I know I have in the past few months where you get into a job and there's no mention of what the model is like or what the salary is like until like the fourth round of interviews. So it can be, I don't know, an interesting place to be interviewing nowadays, especially with as much talent as there is out there that is also looking for jobs, but also companies being in kind of like a higher level position at the moment. But I don't know, Nick. What do you think about this article's claims and some of the bigger impacts this might have?
Yeah, Blake, I'm right there with you in terms of the methodology. To recap, 2,500 executives and managers were interviewed for this. They weren't necessarily talking to the people like the worker bees, so to speak. They weren't talking to the people who are in HR who get to talk with every employee or sort of. They kind of took that higher level view, and this is the difference between talking with stakeholders versus talking with users. If you want to do that UX perspective, uh, I I think there's some interesting implications here just from what they're talking about thematically, right? The talent retention. You're right; they are sort of focusing on making sure that those retention rates are focused around the talent, but not necessarily the culture fit. They do mention briefly well-being for the employee, work-life balance, that type of thing, and I think that's really important. I think that's part of culture. It's not the full picture, but it's important to bring into that discussion too. And then when you think about the hybrid work environments, just to recap some of the statistics here, I guess, that they've discovered from this this study here. Basically, 41% of companies plan to increase their remote working hires, and again, that can vary. And so the other side of that is 59% of companies don't plan to increase their remote working hires, which isn't that almost more indicative of the way in which work is going than 41%? Over half are not considering increasing their remote working hires. So wouldn't that be the future of work? So that's where I come at it with some of these percentages, and maybe these percentages comparative to years prior are much higher, and that's a trend, and we can certainly watch that.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, like when you look at 41 versus 59, then you have 35% of executives, and again, these are the decision makers, don't have a permanent office desk. And is that what is the trend here? Again, I don't have the full picture ahead of me, so I don't know how that has changed from the years prior. And more importantly, pre-pandemic numbers, right? I think that's the really important piece here that I'm missing, at least, is how does this compare to pre-pandemic numbers? Because CEOs and executives mostly just travel, and to not have a desk makes sense in a lot of cases. So is this new, or is this just more of the same? I don't know. These are some of the statistics that they're reporting. I'm just calling it like I see it. So my thoughts, obviously, the methodology could use some work, but overall, the themes of sort of this hybrid work versus and talent retention, important, but are they sort of different from the past? I think the things that are different are when we start to get into the new technologies, and how to sort of increase communication with remote teams. And maybe that's where we can focus more of our efforts. But what do you think, Blake?
I actually want to touch on one of these challenges that you have here that I think it's a bigger deal with work with with remote work than I ever expected it to be. And that's like that blurred line between when are you working and when are you not working. And I think that's become really, really difficult for people to suss out because there's more tech than ever that's available to keep you connected to your job. Whether you have a work phone or you keep email or you keep Discord or whatever on your phone to, you know, mess with while you're watching TV at night or any of that kind of stuff. So I think that's one area where the challenge is very big for employees itself is like, when do I turn off? And if you're not disciplined about that, remote work can be really, really challenging. The other side of it that is really interesting to me is although we have like lots of, technological advancements, lots of ways to connect with each other, there's still this idea that we have weakened interpersonal relationships, even though in some places you can be, in VR chat rooms, meeting your coworkers every day, or you have the ability to connect and to communicate with some of your workers or some of your teammates more often than you ever did before. So I'm not sure how to bridge the gap of creating that, equitable work-life balance for people and also not losing out on what people feel like is organizational culture or not developing relationships in their job, because that can be, really hard to do, especially when you join a remote company for the first time. And you're not really sure how it works or when you should be working, when you should be off, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, Blake. There are some, I guess, challenges with remote work, and I think largely we are still trying to figure this out, right? Because we have a lot of people have found these benefits, right? The improved work life balance in some cases, but that can also do the opposite, as you were mentioning, the sort of blurred work life boundaries. When are you working? When are you not working? Some people, like myself, who used to commute 3 hours a day, this is really nice to wake up, come into my office, and if I'm not like on camera or anything like that, I don't have to shower. I can just sit here in my pajamas and work, and that's my commute, and it's rather nice. And I feel like I'm maybe an oddity when it comes to being able to turn things on and off when it comes to work, because I have everything through one USB cable, and then that changes my mode. But that being said, there's sort of a marked increase in employee well-being for this hybrid work environment. But there are, like you were saying, the challenges associated with it. So like there's pros and cons to all this. And I feel like we're still in this just weird place where we're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. Now, I did mention that Barry is out on holiday this week, but he's in the discussion as on our live stream here. Barry says tech has changed what humans do for decades, but now we're really going to lose that manual labor element. As society, we're going to have to rethink working for hours and more about for human value, right? And I think that really does hammer home that point about the employee well-being. Is it going to be better for you working in an office, or is it going to be better for you working from home? And I think people are different. People work different ways. And can we have a connected environment where those who do work better in an office space can work with those who work better remotely, and can they collaborate effectively? And so I think those are some of the things that I'm thinking about when it comes to this. I don't know. Anything else on sort of the challenges, benefits, about sort of the hybrid or talent retention pieces? Because I really do want to get into the technology and how that might change how we think about things.
I think talent retention is interesting because I think a lot of really big companies have the opportunity to grab talent with high salaries and like lots of impactful, meaningful benefits. But the thing I would stress for a lot of people is, especially is like we get to this space where, like Barry's talking about, really what is your, how do you feel human value? Like thinking about what your job means to you as you go and apply for new jobs, especially in this weird economic environment, may be more impactful than just having to work yourself to the bone all the time. So that's just something I would throw out there to consider. There are lots of smaller companies and things like that that would like to, have you make a really impactful, stretch of time at their company. That may not be able to offer you everything you're looking for, but I would definitely try assessing some of the cultural fit for some of these places. But let's break into some of the technology impacts, Nick.
Yeah, let's do it. So I think the big one on a lot of people's mind, especially right now, automation. Right, like I said, there was a report out earlier this week, and forgive me, I don't have the actual report in front of me. I'm googling as we're talking about it right now. But there's a report basically that came out and stated how many jobs are going to be replaced. Is something to the order of like 300 million jobs, and this is a lot. And it's largely due to sort of the I guess boom of artificial intelligence that we've seen over the last couple months, where we're seeing now that artificial intelligence can do reliably okay job of replacing some of these positions, like I don't know, copywriters or basic data entry roles, those types of things. And so a lot of jobs are going to get sort of stampeded by artificial intelligence. And sometimes the market adjusts for that and sometimes not. And it's scary to think about what type of realignment will need to happen and what type of skills that resetting of skills will need to happen along with this technology. But I think there's going to be a lot of job displacement here. And these here's another sort of issue with the methodology here is when you talk to executives and you talk to managers, they're not so much worried about it because they're replacing the people with AI. And so you don't have this, I guess, fear or pessimism around the future of work from that perspective. It's missing. It's just that perspective is missing. And so you can imagine a world where there's a lot of people who are really afraid that their jobs are going to be taken over by something that ends with GPT. And to me, it's a fairly brazen, I guess, omission to have in this report. And it bothers me. What are your thoughts, Blake?
It's a very tough situation because especially as being somebody who like primarily at the moment is focusing on helping people transition to UX in various capacities in this conversation of, well, the economy is really bad. Like, yes, that will change at some point. It'll go back up and, we'll see another dip later on in our lifetime. But I think the conversation that's not being had is the impact that AI is going to have on a lot of jobs, even the ones that feel like they're secure. Because the thing that I would urge people to think about is it's not necessarily that tomorrow the thing that ends in GPT is just going to take your job. But what will happen is if you ignore all these AI tools and if you ignore the trends of how various tools, whether it's Adobe AI, Chat GPT, whatever, are being used in your field, that's where I think things get really sketchy. Because if you're not like keeping up with trends or being effective in using some of these newer tools, you may end up falling behind. It's like learning a new piece of software for whatever your job is. If you're a UXR or if you're doing like UX design, you're coding, you're learning something new all the time to keep you competitive. So that's the viewpoint that I like to take, I guess, on various AI tools and the impacts it's going to have on the jobs that, one, I'm looking to help people get, but two, that I'm like being employed for myself. But in terms of not even having that really mentioned here, and I don't know what is actually qualifying somebody as an exec in this position, but let's say that it's like, somewhere around C-suite, and they're not really thinking about anything but bringing in these tools that are potentially going to, affect their bottom line, be able to replace employees and, get them more funding because they'll have, cheaper labor, better products. That it's not telling a very honest story from my perspective. Also, too, I think the past 3 years with the pandemic thrown in and the impact of remote work and overhiring at a lot of companies, I think there's a fair amount of like positivity in this story, which I think is good, but it doesn't feel super honest. And I would love to see like a retrospective analysis of this or like another meta analysis done similar to this, like of the past couple of years, and then in a year from now, to really get a better sense as AI really scales, as people go through, this bad macroeconomic climate, and then we come out on the other side of it.
Yeah, I think that's right. You're absolutely right with sort of keeping up with AI tools. We're all going to be AI. I joked about this on the show last week. I think it came from, we're all going to be AI researchers at some point because there's so much stuff going on right now that AI being integrated into a lot of these different products and services, it's going to be incumbent on us to figure out what the interaction between that AI system and the human is. And so we're all going to become those researchers. But I think this is also true from the employee perspective, where you have these various technologies, and we've been talking about AI, but this report mentions other things too, like mixed reality, AR, VR. Especially and communication platforms too. So I want to talk about these each individually, right? When it comes to AI, you can have things like personalized learning and development plans and trying to upskill your employees in a way that is non-disruptive and sort of efficient for each employee, individualized. And I think that's the point that they're trying to make here, is that um, everyone in an employee in a every employed person is different in terms of their skill set, in terms of their goals, in terms of what they want to do, what they want to accomplish, their place within the larger organization. And I think those personalized, AI-driven personalized learning and development plans will largely be focused on helping the organization and the employee grow in tandem. And I think that's where we're starting to see some of those talent retention things jumping in, right? Can we make subtle nudges? And I'm just thinking back to your point here, Blake, like, can we make subtle nudges within those training development plans um, that are AI driven to sort of unify the culture? And would that be an effective way to help with that retention? You could build some of that into the system. I do want to talk about briefly some of the communication platforms. There's a bunch of different platforms that people use now. You have the Google Meets, you have the Teams, you have Zoom, a variety of different suites, and they're all incorporating different things into their products and services that are going to enhance the way in which we communicate. There's whiteboarding features, there's various communication enhancements such as auto transcriptions. And I think even in some, there's like sentiment analysis around, they'll do a recap of the transcript and do a sentiment analysis, a summary of everything that's going on. And those are great. Those are great sort of innovations within that space, but I think we can do more to communicate with people. And especially as it comes to sort of these jobs that require some sort of three-dimensional perspective on something. Let's say you're designing a physical product and you need to review it in three-dimensional space, but you're, miles and miles and miles away from where that product is. Well, this is where the technology for mixed reality comes in. Can you sit at your desk with some mixed reality glasses and be able to hold an object in front of you and say, I don't know, be able to manipulate it in three dimensions with whatever interaction method you're looking at, mouse, some sort of gestural based interface, but you're looking at this thing in three dimensions as it's relative to you, and you're able to inspect it in a way that you wouldn't if it was just 2D pictures, that type of thing. And I think that's where this would sort of bridge some of those gaps, especially with the physical based environments, right? I mean, we have it's funny to think about, but we have those robots that you throw a camera and an iPad on and you can, navigate through a physical environment. But there are limitations with that. Let's say a manager's trying to do that. The employees just throw a doorstop under it and it won't be able to move, right? Like but that type of technology would be really useful for being able to preview some things in 3D, especially with the physical environments. I don't know, like what are you thinking about sort of these technologies outside of AI or even AI? That they mentioned quite a few in the article.
Yeah, I like the idea of being a little bit more robust in our chat platforms, and because I feel like there's an opportunity, and maybe it's just the culture of Discords that has made me this way, but I feel like there is a great opportunity to use platforms like Discord or whatever you use for work to help you learn about people and meet and understand them a little bit more, both in a work perspective, but also like having, personal channels or whatever it may be. And I think this is another place where like AI helping facilitate conversations between people. So like almost giving you water cooler moments is a great way to bring some opportunity to build culture, all that kind of stuff. I do love the idea of working it, like being able to do both work in VR/mixed reality for meetings, because I think there is, in my perspective, something lost sometimes when you're not in the same room as somebody else. And I feel like mixed reality is a really great opportunity for that, especially when you're doing like whiteboarding, or if like let's say that you're working in two different offices, like some people are remote, but they go into an office one day to work together, being able to feel like you are there and part of the environment a little bit more than just like being a voice on the screen could be really helpful. Uh, Also, too, the other aspect that I found really interesting is how do we, make people feel more present in their jobs? And I think, again, mixed reality is a great opportunity for that. The only thing that I guess is the biggest barrier for entry is one, where's the tech for it? Because when we're talking about like manipulating physical products in space, that can be really, really hard to do from an AR perspective. But also, like, how do you like? Is it enough to see something and feel like you're feeling it in mixed reality? When it comes to something like a medical device, you probably need to have a prototype in your hand so you can actually know how the use interactions actually feel and happen, versus only like visual and somewhat of haptic inspection. So I think there are some aspects of the job that may never get away from doing everything, in person or having like a physical product in front of you. I think there's a lot that we can do to augment how we work and how distributed companies work together through mixed reality, AR, VR, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, you're right. You were kind of bringing it up with the different sectors, right? Medical human factors is going to be very different from defense, right? Defense is not something where you can necessarily do everything remote. You need to go into secure spaces to do a lot of your work, sometimes, depending on the project that you're working on. So can we get around that in a remote environment? I don't see that happening anytime soon, but that is something to think about, is that this is going to affect different sectors in very different ways. In the tech sector, yeah, we're 100% on board. There's going to be large investments in artificial intelligence, that type of thing. And this actually goes well with a question brought up in the chat by Alex here. The question is, will these massive corporations be willing or wanting to pay into both people, staff, and AI programs? And I think the answer is absolutely yes. There's sort of an artificial intelligent gold mine right now going on in industry where, the companies do want to invest in it because it's largely going to be the competitive advantage, right? ChatGPT is going to be thrown into every product service that you see going forward. But as I was mentioning, there's different sectors are going to be affected differently, and you've already seen even government be sort of affected by the way in which we do this. So now you see a lot of these like town hall meetings happening in a Zoom, and you got everybody there with all their little squares. And I don't know, it just there's and then with government or defense, like I mentioned, you're going to be doing things in a secure area, so you can't do something like that. Education, we've seen a hybrid approach during the pandemic, but it seems like now a lot of that learning is happening back in the classroom, and I think that's right. I think that physical environment is right for students um, to learn better with that hands-on experience, to get that one-on-one with the instructor, with the teacher. I think there's a lot of nuance to the type of industry that we're talking about here. And it feels like, this is just my assessment here, that this report is largely focused on the tech sector. So take that with a grain of salt. Blake, I think we have just a couple more minutes here. Do you have any sort of closing thoughts with this report? Technology mentioned it. Anything else like that?
I'm really just stuck on the like focusing on talent retention thing. And I don't know why. I just can't let it go. I don't feel like that's a big enough deal. And I feel like just the report itself may have focused on the wrong things. And maybe it's the small sample size of just like execs only, and the focus on, how do we keep people in the company from just a like hiring the best of the best type of perspective. And I just don't like that for whatever sets of reasons. But I don't know. It did do a good job at making you feel whether it's, truly accurate or not. I don't think any scientific study can be 100% correct, but it did give me a little bit more hope for the future when it comes to 2023 and beyond. Maybe some potential pushes towards continued hybrid and remote work, and opportunities to really leverage technology to bring us closer and develop those, challenges we talked about. So overcoming, those interpersonal relationship issues and overcoming the feel of loss of organizational cohesiveness or organizational culture. So I think ultimately it's kind of a bright side for sure.
Yeah, I guess the thing that I'll kind of end on here is that there's going to be, there already has been sort of this large cultural shift around working from home, around incorporating communication software, communication solutions into our day to day. And I think we're still discovering what it's like to work remotely, what it's like to work in a hybrid environment without a pandemic present. I think we're still learning that. And these thoughts just represent executives, managerial levels. We're not getting the worker bees perspective on this and where they see their jobs going with the advent of all these new technologies. And I think that is really important because executives and managers can have ideas of how these employees might be able to apply that to their work. But really, you're not going to get that until you have the person who's sitting there looking at this technology and going, I can use it for this. Wow, that is really cool. Right? I've had several of those moments myself where if you were to ask someone higher up on the chain than me, I don't know if they'd have those same level of insights about how artificial intelligence, mixed reality, they even mentioned brain computer interfaces, which we didn't even touch on here, but how those types of technologies can be implemented in our work. And that's the report that I want to see. I want to see where the worker bees see their work going as artificial intelligence and these other technologies too start to become more prevalent, because I think that is the true future of work. Anyway, that's how we'll end it today. Thank you to our patrons for selecting our topic. Thank you to our friends over at Infosys for our news story this week. If you want to follow along, we do post the links to the original articles on our weekly roundups on our blog. You can also join us on our Discord community for more discussion on these stories and much more. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to see what's going on in the human factors community right after this. Are you tired of boring lectures and textbooks on human factors and UX? Well, grab your headphones and get ready for a wild ride with the Human Factors Minute podcast. Each minute is like a mini crash course packed with valuable insights and information on various organizations, conferences, usability methods, theories, models, certifications, tools, and much more. We'll take you on a journey through the fascinating world of human factors, from the ancient history to the latest trends and developments. Listen in as we explore the field and discover new ways to enhance the user experience. From the Think Aloud protocol to the critical incident technique, focus groups, iterative design, we'll make sure that you're the smartest person in the room. Tune in on the 10th, the 20th, and the last day of every month for a new and interesting tidbit related to human factors. Don't miss out on the Human Factors Minute podcast, your ultimate source for all things human factors.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our monthly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and access to the full library of Human Factors Minute, a weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Oh, yes. Huge thank you, as always, to our patrons. We especially want to thank our Human Factors Cast All Access patron, Michelle Tripp. Patrons like you truly keep the show running. Blake just gave you a virtual high five. If you want a virtual high five, a buck gets you in the door. Hey, we've been doing these dumb commercial reads about various things because AI is great at making dumb commercials. So I'm going to read this one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get excited because we have an amazing offer for you all business savvy folks out there. Are you ready to reach thousands of human factors, psychology, and design professionals with your message? Well, guess what? We have a perfect opportunity for you. Introducing our show sponsor tier. First up, you get 60 seconds of airtime on our show every week for the entire duration of your pledge. That's 4 episodes per month of prime advertising real estate for your business. Instead of these dumb commercials, we'll read those. But wait, there's more. You'll be featured on our homepage and our sponsor page with a permanent link. We'll even introduce our sponsorship and on all of our social media platforms. Wow, look at that. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all of them. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds too good to be true, but trust me, it's not. The offer is perfect for human factors and design consultant agencies. We know a few of those. Companies hiring human factors or UX professionals. We know a few of those too. Professional organizations or societies, wink, wink, looking to boost conference attendance or promote initiatives, and companies selling specialized hardware or software targeting human factors or UX professionals as a core user demographic. Just imagine the possibilities. All these benefits for just being a sponsor of our show. This offer is limited to one agency, organization, or company at a time. Will only be available again when the current sponsor decides to end their sponsorship. So hurry up. Don't miss this amazing opportunity. If you have any questions about the sponsorship, don't hesitate to contact us. humanfactorscast.media/contact. We're always here to help you with your advertising needs. So what are you waiting for? Become a sponsor today. Let's make some magic happen. That is really dumb. All right.
Yeah, you nailed it.
All right. Next part.
It came from.
Ah, yes. Let's switch gears. Let's get to the "it came from" part of the show, where we search all over the internet to bring you topics the community is talking about. If you find any of these answers useful, give us a like wherever you're watching to help other people find this type of content. We have 3 up tonight. The first one here is from the UX research subreddit by UX UIChew, I guess. I don't know. They ask how to deal with defensive and uncooperative product owners and developers. They write, how can I get product owners and developers to be more open-minded when it comes to fixing issues in our app? They get defensive and don't want to prioritize looking into the issues. I'm not sure why they're acting this way, but as a researcher, I want to understand our users and communicate these needs to product. Any advice on how to deal with this? Blake, how do you deal with this?
This is the reality, man. I feel like this is your job. Your job is to figure out how to communicate your value to your design team, whether it's product owners, developers, I don't care, marketers. That is part of the job when you get a UX job. That's just how I feel. I'm pretty brazen and open about that. And it's hard to sometimes be an evangelist that doesn't get any kickback. You just get a whole lot of like roadblocks or things getting in your way. So proactively, what can you do? Honestly, you need to talk to your development team and your PMs to better understand why they are refusing to prioritize fixing issues. And two, if they are roadblocking you from doing your job like straightforward, like you can't do any user experience research activities, you can't offer up any design feedback. If you're not able to do your job at all, then one, it could be a sign that you're going to have to actually build a design culture in the company, which can be very hard to do. Maybe it's not something you want to shoulder. But what you can do is talk to your developer and PM separately to understand how they've worked effectively with designers in the past. If they have not, try and understand their communication style. Is there a way that you can better communicate with your development team to actually not be throwing it in their face that it's a bug in the system, but hey, there's a way to look at this as we really want to, impact business outcomes. We're not seeing it through the current design. What if we did X, Y, and Z? And the last thing, if you're a researcher, try your best to, if you have to, data mine. Try and figure out ways that you can actually bring concrete numbers to a PM and say, hey, we're seeing this problem across all of these experiences. If we don't fix it, that's just going to impact our bottom line. And sometimes it's a good time to bring others into the fold outside of the design side. Bring in a DS if you have it, or a data scientist. Work with marketing to understand the population that you're targeting. This is, I think, one part of UX researcher jobs and UX jobs in general that I think people forget is even in 2023, when there's design cultures in a lot of giant companies, it's still on you to really figure out how to communicate that value. But I'm going to get off the soapbox. Nick, what are your thoughts here? How do you help?
You're right there, man. I'll step back on your soapbox because explaining the importance of UX research is evangelizing. That's a key part of our job. And understanding what value we bring and making sure that other people understand what value we bring is a big part of it too. You need to speak their language. I've talked about this on the show a million times. I think some of these, this is all regurgitated information, what I'm presenting here, but it bears repeating, right? Put feelers in their ears to make it seem like they're the ones who want to solve the problem, and then take credit for it by putting it in writing and way ahead of time and say, yeah, no, I brought this up, way back when. But that's one strategy that I find works a little bit better. Like asking them those leading questions. Like, I know you're not supposed to lead as a researcher with users. You can do it with your product managers, with your product owners. I think that's okay to do because then you are putting ideas into their head that are going to serve not only you, but your end users, and remember why you're doing this in the first place. So I think that's one aspect of it, getting them involved in the problem solving piece of it, having them understand what constitutes a problem is a really important piece of it. If you're just having trouble, when you talk about fixing issues in the app, what does that mean? Are they issues to you? Are they issues to the users? Are they low hanging fruit? Are they like big structural things? I think you need to pick your battles when it comes to identifying which issues to tackle and which ones to bring up to product owners and product managers. And if they're just not getting it, then maybe, like I said, put those feelers in their ear and then see if they would, be willing to have some sort of tiger team and include product on that to look for problems that then you can solve with research. Look at that. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. It's part of the job. And yeah, any other thoughts, Blake?
I like your get it in writing. I think one major win is getting stuff in as tickets or whatever your system you use, getting in those like bug fixes or getting user experience, design points, tickets, whatever they are, can be really helpful because like at least then you're getting on the board. Maybe they're still getting deprioritized, but you have them written down. So if it comes down to it and things start getting really bad, you've already communicated as much and provided the value, and hopefully it'll continue to come back and be more valuable to them in your sprints. Yeah, biggest thing, just try and figure out how to collaborate best you can, and try as many different tactics as you can pull out of the bag.
All right, this next one here is on the UX research subreddit by Preparation. Oh, wait, sorry. OK Preparation 876. They say they're feeling hopeless. As someone who's been laid off twice in the past 6 months and is feeling hopeless about finding a job, do you have any advice or encouraging words that could help me gain new perspectives on my situation? Blake.
Yeah, first up, like, I'm super sorry that that's happened. I think there's not enough talked about, or like trying to empathize with people that this stuff is happening to. I think there's a lot of like, you see a post on LinkedIn or something like that. So I'm really sorry that happened. It's not fun. It's not easy. It's a hard time for a lot of people. In terms of getting more excited about the prospects or how to get more encouraged, this is hard. I don't have great answers for this. I'll tell you how I'm doing it. And maybe this helps you. I hope it does in some way or another. One big thing that I found to really get me back on the horse, so to speak, is up-leveling skills. So I have for a long time really enjoyed development and focusing on, that weird line between being a developer and a designer. So I've kind of doubled down on that. And on top of that, I've really enjoyed being a content creator, from being on the podcast with Nick for years to doing video game content creation. So I've kind of tried to figure out, how do I bring those things two together? And last, I've done some actually very hard introspection about what I'm good at when it comes to my career. And I think that's really helped me identify where I should be putting my energy and where I should not. So I would say that you're in an interesting place where you have an opportunity to really think about your job and your career. And maybe this is an opportunity to educate people on the experience you have. Try learning new skills, or, try teaching people. So that's just one or a few kind of like tips you could go through. But ultimately try and find things that just reignite your fire for your job or some kind of hobby around your job. How about you, Nick? What do you think that this person can do or use to hear right now?
Yeah, I think commiserating. This is not uncommon. The job market sucks right now, and that's just the way it is. And as mentioned earlier, automation is making things worse because there's upstream effects. It might not necessarily replace your job as a UX researcher, but does that mean that, one researcher can do the work of two with the assistance of AI? And I think there's those upstream effects that we're not necessarily accounting for yet. It sucks right now because not only is that happening, there's all these tech layoffs, but then there's also competing. And if you're in a junior role, you're competing with a bunch of seasoned, people looking for a job too. And that's hard. That's hard. So what Blake said is right. Upskill, but and develop new skills to help make yourself a little bit more competitive. Like, the only actionable advice that I have for this is don't give up. I mean, it can be easy to give up, and I don't see anybody just giving up without a big fight, but don't give up. If you give up, then you've let the crappy market win, and don't let the crappy market win. You got this. There's some additional context in this question that we didn't get to, but really, I think the thing that is sucky in this situation is that they were kind of blindsided by the second layoff, where they had no indication, and then that job was then posted right after they left. That's not a great situation to be in. I'm sorry. Commiserate with others. There are others in your situation, and talk with somebody who has experienced something similar. I think there's a lot of things that you can share. Sharing your experiences with one person won't make the whole market more competitive, but it might, make you two more competitive. And that's something that you can do too, is like, hey, what's working for you? Oh, well, I'm doing this, that, the other thing. And you share your experiences as well. And having somebody at your level that is going through the same thing is good, and it'll be a networking opportunity too. So that's my advice. It's not a Band-Aid that'll fix everything, but
Yeah. I actually got one more thing to throw in here.
yeah.
And this is harder to do, or easier to say than actually do. But it's something that I found myself doing a bunch, and I don't think enough people try and figure out how to capitalize on it. And it really takes a little bit of self-awareness and a little bit of luck, but try to build your own lane, like somehow, whether it's, I can only really give examples, and like accidental things kind of happen to me. I've wanted to teach people how to code since I became a UX boot camp instructor. And I found a subtle way to do it. And now I'm diving into other opportunities that are going to potentially let me get paid to do that. And so it's one of these things where just try inserting your time and energy into different places and see if you can carve out like a special niche for yourself. And you just never know like what a little bit of passion is going to do for you, what opportunities or what doors it's going to open. So don't, like Nick said, don't give up. Try and find a new lane for yourself and try to impact the community in a positive way, because people will see it.
Yeah, start a podcast. Let me know. I'll help it. I'll make it happen. All
There you
right. Next one here. We have 13-year senior designer getting burned out. Any advice? This one's by 7 Cubs on the user experience subreddit. They write, as a senior UXer with 13 years of experience, I'm feeling burned out with my work in UX design. I'm tired of feeling undervalued and unappreciated, dealing with development teams and stakeholders. Is there any advice or path to reinvigorate my passion for UX? Or is it time for me to consider a new career outside of it? Any similar experiences out there that can offer me helpful advice? Wow, I picked some really depressing topics tonight, Blake. What do you think?
Yeah. This is, maybe I'm not the best person to answer this, because I've been in this situation like, a few times now. Nick's aware of this. A lot of people that know me are aware of this. So it's really tough, right? You get into this position that is I think it's a valued position, but I think the job is very hard. And I think you are in a lot of contentious situations that maybe you weren't prepared for. And it can be so tiring to try and, argue your way out of a paper bag for like a button fix or changing small things that are going to impact the user experience. So what do you do? One thing that I think is good is, if you have the capacity to do so, take time off. If you do not, try finding other avenues that give you joy in your career and in your personal life. I found that, I know a broken record, but I found that mentoring people through ADP List and working through boot camps as a side hustle has brought me a lot of joy in a career that I've multiple times fallen out of love with and wanted to walk away from forever. And it's been a way to also let me feel like all the experience that I have can be translated to somebody else in a positive and impactful way. Whereas in my job, sometimes it just doesn't feel like that, with that, vicious cycle of trying to get things done. Now, the other advice too is like, are you in the right position when it comes to UX? I feel like there's this, and I'd love to hear your thoughts here, Nick, but I feel like there's this weird hierarchy thing that we're really stuck on in jobs, where you have to keep climbing the ladder because that's the only way you're going to get paid more. And that's where the prestige comes from. But sometimes like you don't want to manage people, or you don't just want to do the low level stuff. And I think it's important. And some really large tech companies, I think, have this right, where you get the opportunity to stay as an IC, like creating products, or move up to management and focus on managing, but y'all are seeing it a similar level. So that's another thing to ask yourself, is like, do you like the thing you're doing in UX, and is there another lane for you? And then last bit, up level skills. If you learn how to do something new, sometimes it gives you a different perspective. Play with ChatGPT, learn how to code a little bit, understand machine learning, learn a new design tool or a new practice for managing teams. It might, reignite the fire in your current role, or to go find something else. But Nick, what do you think here? What should this not 13-year-old burnt out designer, but 13 years of experience designer do?
Thank you for the clarification, Blake. So I would like to second your point about finding something new to excite you, to reignite that passion. That's something that I've done with this podcast, with this very podcast a couple times. I've gotten burned out and needed a break. And I've taken the exact advice that Blake just laid out. I've taken a break from it for a week or two, and it's been enough for me to recharge my batteries. And I will add unique things to this. Don't worry, I'm not just going to take all of Blake's answers. But I also find that adding new things to my skill set and being able to use new tools to do things more efficiently or do things in different ways that it really satisfies that ADHD part of my brain where I'm like, oh, dopamine hit, let's go here. And it really helps out with trying to reinvigorate that spark. Now, I will say there's an exercise that I was told to do, and this has helped out a lot. What you do is you write down a one description of why you do what you do. Why did you choose this career path? What aspects of it interest you? Is it for the money? Is it because you want to make somebody's life better? Is it like, what is it? Why did you do this? And this is really hard. This is really hard. If you really sit down and think about it and break it down, it's like, well, I'm in this job because I want money. And then but why do I want money? Well, it's to support my family. But why did I choose this career path? And you can attack it from multiple lanes and almost build out a mind map of why you do what you do. And then distill that mind map into one sentence that defines why you do this. It's a very hard exercise, but it's well worth the time and effort. It's not there's no great answer for burnout, but this will help at least help you reflect on why it is that you chose to go into this. Was it by chance? Do you really want to explore something else? If so, explore something else. Otherwise, why are you doing this? And again, kind of the same point. Commiserate with others about the position. Go to conferences, network. I always feel super recharged after going to a conference and talking with others. It's just there's something so refreshing about being with like-minded people, and so maybe try that. I don't know. Those are my thoughts. Anything else, Blake? Before we get into one more thing.
I think those are great points. The conference thing is awesome, especially with like how accessible some conferences are that are online and stuff like that too. So it's just another way to like listen to talks. There's a lot that are coming up in various spaces. So keep an eye out for that kind of stuff. That's always a good way to like just find something different to think about.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into this last part of the show. It's just one more thing. It's just one more thing. Blake, what is your one more thing this week?
So I shout out to Nick and Barry and the entire Human Factors Cast Lab, because something I've been trying to do and help another company with is building communities inside of a Discord. And it is very hard to do. It's very hard to get people interested, but it's super exciting, especially around topics that I'm interested in. But one thing that I've really had a hard time doing is actually kind of being a very introverted person as I am, not very social, make sure that I come up with like a correct content strategy. So that's been something fun to learn. That's been a new little hobby / passion of mine over the past couple of months. So it's trying to figure out how do I create daily drips of content for, front end development and accessibility to keep people interested and keep people coming back. And it's kind of a little bit like the content creator type of things that I've done before, but more focused in the quote unquote professional sense, I guess. But yeah, so shout out to y'all. It's been super fun and interesting. Nick, what is your one more thing?
So I have like 7 different things on this, but I'm going to focus. I'm going to focus on the first one here. Love is Blind is back on Netflix, and this show is trash, and I love it. So if you're unfamiliar, I've talked about it on the show before, but it's such an interesting psychological concept. You put 2 people in opposing rooms. The only thing between them is a screen. They cannot see each other. They are supposed to fall in love in something like 10 days. And then at the end of those 10 days, they decide if they want to propose to the other person on the other side. Okay, that's fine. But you're also competing with other people who are talking to the same people that you are. And this season, oh, it's so juicy. I'm telling you, people are falling in love with people. And then they have to break up with those people to propose to other people. And then when they all get out of the pods, they meet the other people that they were talking with. And then there's conversations that happen between those people. Oh, man, it is juicy. And They say this in like the very first couple seconds, but somebody makes a wrong choice about who they want to marry. And it's so juicy. The people on the show are just terrible, and you love to hate them. And they like are just bad, and it's great. I love this show, you guys. I love it. And if anybody wants to talk to me about Love is Blind, please join me on the Discord. And that's it for today, everyone. If you like what you hear about the show today and enjoy some of the discussion around workplaces and jobs, I'll encourage you to go listen to the last time Blake and I kind of talked about this, episode 208, Work Pandemic Protocols Influencing Employee Behavior. Comment with wherever you're listening with what you think of the story this week for more in-depth discussion. You can always join us on our Discord community and visit our official website, sign up for our newsletter, stay up to date with all the latest Human Factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's a couple options for you. One, wherever you're at right now, stop what you're doing, just leave us a 5-star review. That is free for you to do, and it really helps out the show. Two, if you feel so inclined, if you feel like being social, just tell your friends about us. Word of mouth is really the number one way in how we grow. And three, if you have the financial means to do so, you want to support the show, just $1, $1 gets you into the door of our Patreon supporters, and that dollar goes a long way. So if you have the financial means to, you want to do that, just it's right there for you. As always, links to all of our socials and our website are in the description of this episode. Mr. Blake Arnsdorff, thank you for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk about, I don't know, how being depressed about losing a job?
You guys can find me basically anywhere across social media at Don't Panic UX.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me on our Discord and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning into Human Factors Cast. Until next time, it depends.
Oh, there it is.
I was waiting for it. Oh, man. Okay, so when I choose the Reddit posts, I choose them independently of each other. Like, I just kind of pick them throughout the week, throw them in there. I didn't realize I had such like a depressing lineup going for it.
Yeah, those were sad. Yeah. It was not good. Can I tell you something about your one more thing though?
Yeah.
I read that as a sentence. The whole thing. And I was really confused. And I was waiting for you to read it to clarify for me. And it turned out to be trashy TV.
Yeah. No, because the way I throw in my notes into the generator is just like a string. And so when it comes in here, it doesn't do it bullet points. It does it as a string. But yeah, the other thing, I guess I could talk about some of that other stuff in the post show here. I kind of want to save it for weeks, but it might not be so shiny and new later. I just got this today. These are bone conducting headphones.
Oh yeah.
And like, I don't know if you've used them before, but they're kind of magical in the sense that like they vibrate against your temples and you can hear things, and you can also hear things in the environment because it's not covering up your ear holes. And cool. I don't know, I've been listening to them today, and it's kind of been nice. You can hear a little bit of bleeding with sound. So the people sitting next to me could hear. But I mean, for like just being able to work and like hear if my wife or son needs something out of the corner of my ear, I don't put in headphones, or I don't put on headphones even, because these cancel out the sound. And so I don't know, to have these with open ear holes is kind of nice.
That is nice. Yeah. And I've gotten really tired of wearing my AirPods because right now I'm using over-ear headphones because I'm so tired of it. But like I was wearing the AirPods for 5 or 6 hours a day when I do calls with people, and the bone conducting thing might be really awesome. Are they Bluetooth enabled or no?
Yeah, they are Bluetooth. So like, let me. So I'm actually going to put this up. So Blake, I don't know if you'll hear me again or not, but I'm going to put this up to the microphone and see if it works. So I'm actually going to put this up. So Blake, I don't know if you'll hear me again or not, but I'm going to put this up to the microphone and see if it works.
That's pretty crispy. That's nice.
Oh, is it crispy? I don't know, because it's really pretty muted on my end.
Yeah, it's pretty good sound to me. It's not the same as you talking to the mic right now.
I don't know, because it's really pretty muted on my end.
Yeah, it's pretty good sound to me. It's not.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's really cool. Like I just did that because I didn't want a copyright strike, but I've been listening to music all day on it, and I find that vocals on it are a little bit harder to listen to. So like podcasts or audiobooks or something like that, you're missing some of the overtone, like the high tones, and so it is really interesting. And then it doesn't sound like speech, which is, I mean, it sounds like speech. It's hard to describe. It's speech, like you heard it just now. But there's a quality to it that doesn't sound like when you put headphones on or when you put earbuds in, where you hear the same type of, like if you listen to a high quality podcast, it almost sounds like somebody's talking right in your ear. It doesn't quite sound like that on this. It sounds more like you're listening to them with earmuffs on, if that makes sense. I don't know. It's hard to describe. But music sounds like it's right in your ear.
That's weird.
It is.
Even like vocals in music?
Yeah.
Huh. So there's something just about like the conversational stuff that is off.
I think so. And I don't know if it's like, I just don't know. It's fascinating. Fascinating.
What prompted you to get them, or what excited you about the bone conducting joints?
So I actually saw, I'm on ADHD TikTok, and and someone was like, "Oh yeah, with these, I can stay focused and also listen to my surroundings." And I'm like, "Okay,
it's the best of all worlds, right?
You got me." And then they posted, of course, like the $120 ones. I looked at these, and these were half off. They were like $30 or something, and I ordered them last night, and they got here this morning, and I threw them on today. And so I'm still experimenting with it, but they were cheap, and I thought, I'll throw $30 down to see how it works. And if I really want to go crazy, I can do the $130 ones. But for now,
it'd be interesting if the quality really improves with the variance in price or whatever. I would imagine it probably does. But that's kind of cool. Get a little taste of what it's like.
Yeah.
Personally, I know it makes sense to be able to hear your environment, but that's half the reason I'm putting headphones in. So I don't know if it would do me so much good.
Yeah. So I mean, like here's a couple use cases for me, right? Like wife and kid need something. I'm in my office working, have headphones on. I can't hear them. They have to come in, right? Where otherwise I can say, "Hey, Nick," Another thing is like, at night, when I don't know, wife and son are in the bedroom and I am on the couch listening to audiobooks and reading. If something's going on in there and they need me, "Nick, can you bring whatever?" I can hear that without having my headphones in. Other situations, I could just be sitting on the couch listening to whatever next to them, and I could still have a full-on conversation to them. It's just I'm listening to my own personal world. I'm living in my own personal world. But without obscuring my ability to hear them. So I guess there's that. And then also here's another one that I am not using currently, but maybe will someday, is like the exercise use case, right? So like if you're running out and about and you need to be able to hear cars and vehicles because you're running on the street, that would be that's something, I've walked home with earbuds in and like have to pay really close attention to my surroundings. But if I didn't have earbuds in and I could just, wear those and walk home and hear the auditory cues of cars passing by, then that's even better.
Yeah, that might even be good. Like this doesn't work as well, because part of the reason, like in gyms, that I'll wear headphones is because I can't stand the music they play in gyms. It's very rare I go in a gym and I'm excited to hear the tunes. But there's been plenty of cases where like I can't hear somebody right behind me, or somebody asks me a question and I just ignore them because I can't hear them. So
I'd be really curious to see how that pans out, right? So like, if I go to the gym and throw these in, can I still hear? Is it going to be conflicting with what I have on? I don't know if that's true or not. Because like I haven't, full disclosure, I just got these today. I've been sitting in my office all day. And so like I haven't sat on the couch next to my wife and kid while my kid's watching YouTube videos or something, like I haven't tried that experiment yet. So I don't know. I don't have that data.
Soon.
Soon.
You'll know
Soon
the
I'll know.
answers.
I'll
It would
report.
be awesome for biking for me, I would imagine. Because that's something I hate wearing headphones for. One, because when I go to like bike parks or whatever, I'm likely to fall, likely to lose them, crush the headphones. But like I feel like with the wraparound, that might be kind of cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about it for. I don't ride anymore, but I used to ride motorcycles all the time, and I'm I wonder how this would have performed with those, where there's already a lot of vibration going on with a motorcycle, and you can't hear anything on the freeway anyway.
Yeah.
But would this drown out the sound, and you could still hear, if a car's beeping at you or something? Would it be safer? I don't know. And are you going to damage your ears because they're exposed? I don't know. It was just a thought. I was like, how would these perform? I don't know. Never going to find out for myself because I don't ride motorcycles anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would be interesting, though. I would imagine the exposure to your ears would be pretty bad. Pretty bad. But it'd be a cool concept. Maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't be that bad. I don't know. It's one of those things that like I don't see myself getting on a motorcycle again at this age. But
Yeah,
I could put
exactly.
one on a dirt bike or something and see what's going on. Especially not in California. I would never have a motorcycle here. That would scare me to death.
For me, it was like when I think I was always kind of hopeful that maybe I'd get another motorcycle until my son was born. And then that was it for me, where I was like, nope, I don't need that risk.
Yep, that'll do it. That'll put the nail in the coffin for sure.
Yeah. As fun as it would be to hop on one of those again, I don't need to have the risk. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Motorcycles are fun, but like even in a controlled environment, it's dangerous. And that's just the reality of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because I'll never forget it in my motorcycle class when I was learning how to ride. The guy was like expressing the importance of wearing a helmet, and if you do nothing else, always wear a helmet. And it's crazy to me that there are some states with laws where you don't have to wear a helmet. And he was describing what happened to his friend as he got on his motorcycle. He was going like 5 miles per hour, tipped over, cracked his head open on the pavement. And it's just like a fall just off the motorcycle going 5 miles per hour, cracked your head open. Like, yikes. I wasn't an ATGAT rider, all the gear all the time, but I was a really hyper safe rider, where like I would wear the big bright yellow vest even in broad daylight. I'd wear the jacket, but it didn't have armor in it, right? So like I wasn't all the gear all the time, but I'd wear boots and I'd wear the jacket and the helmet, and figured that would be enough for me, and the gloves.
Yeah, I had too many friends that just like didn't want to wear the gear and got it, like would fall off the bikes, tip it over, and they just got lucky all the time. And I was like, I'd rather just put the helmet on. Nowadays, like some of the helmets are so dope, like it's kind of cool to wear a helmet.
Oh, dude, wearing a helmet's always cool. Being alive is freaking rad.
It's way better
I will
than
tell
being
you.
not alive. Tell you that, or like not being able to ride a bike again because you didn't wear your helmet.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that sketches me out now is how fast electric bikes can go, and that they're, at least here, they're street legal and kids can have them. And there's so many people without helmets that don't follow like road laws and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not getting on the highway because you're not doing 35 on the highway in Cali, but at the same time, like crushing through neighborhoods and stuff, it does terrify me to see so many people without helmets on, and it just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It'll save your noggin. You need that thing for all sorts of good stuff.
I'll never forget. There were like two distinct moments when I was riding where I got really lucky. I'll just put it that way. So first moment was, I guess this is like not necessary. So I was splitting lanes, which is legal to do in California. So splitting lanes, and I had a really loud bike so people could hear me coming. And of course, you have the jerkwads who like try to, close in on you to prevent you from lane splitting. And I never understood that. In fact, if you are one of those people, stop, because what they are doing is safe, but what you're doing is unsafe. So, they're not going to proceed forward if they don't feel like they can do it. And what if you do encounter somebody who's going forward, you'll get somebody like me where you're closing in on me and I'm going too fast. I can't course correct. My mirror hit their side mirror, knocked it clean off. Mine just does a 360 and lands right back in place. And it knocked their side mirror off, and I just kept going.
I mean, as you should.
Well, I mean, it was scary, though, because I thought I was going to get knocked off.
Absolutely, yeah.
The second piece, or the second time, was when I was coming home from work. It was late at night, and there was an on-ramp to the freeway. And is in Carlsbad, I-5 North, right off of Cannon, if you're familiar with that, right? And I was getting on the freeway. There were sprinklers going, and so the on-ramp was all wet. And as I hit the turn, my bike slid out from under me. I stupidly put my foot down, reactionary.
Yep.
And it course corrected the bike, so I got like back up and just was fine. But that was really dumb of me to put my foot down like that, because it could have resulted in a broken ankle.
Absolutely.
It could have resulted in a crushed foot. It could have resulted in a lot of different things. And that's the one that sticks with me more often than not. Because I'm like, oh yeah, no, I totally could have just slid and hurt myself really bad. If I didn't put my leg down, could I have cracked my skull open? Like that type of thing. So like the scary stuff. So anyway, don't be careful when you ride. If you ride, is it worth it? Maybe not for me. Not for me.
Yeah, I always preferred dirt bikes over actual motorcycles. I just didn't. I felt like the motorcycle thing was always just way too risky for me. I've been on a few, and I remember not too long ago. Well, it's years ago now, but it was more recent in the past like 5 years. Somebody asked me if I wanted to get on their bike and like left it for me to use. And I remember going out to the garage to like think about it, and then just said, nope, I don't think so. I just don't think this is for me anymore out here. Because it'd be kind of different where I grew up in Georgia, right? Because well, no, I don't know. Actually, nowadays, not so much. But there's a lot of like required highway driving here. And I don't really know if I'd want to go like tooling around in the neighborhood on a bike or not. I would definitely get on like dirt bikes and trail bikes and stuff like that, because I think those are a little bit more fun and I feel more confident on them. But, hats off to anybody that rides like, a serious bike, either like a touring bike or, a racing bike every day. Because that just seems like you have to be made of steel to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Be careful out there, I guess, is the message.
Yeah, be absolutely as safe as you can. And I will always give you enough room to split lanes.
Yep, same. I don't think it's legal up here.
I don't think it should be legal anywhere, because not because of motorcycles not doing the right thing. It's what you just described. People being idiots and now I'm going to close it off so they can't get past me, or whatever reason they're doing it. It doesn't make any sense. I think car drivers can be really ignorant to other types of vehicles, like bicycles included.
I found a useful chart here. California, it looks like it's the only state where it's completely legal.
Interesting. I wonder why.
There's several states where it's not mentioned and not specifically prohibited. And it looks like about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, maybe 13 states. And then there's plenty of states where it's illegal. Utah has modified versions that have been legalized. And in Washington and Oregon, as well as some East Coast states, a few of them anyway, there's currently considering legislation related to lane splitting, but it doesn't tell me positive or negative on that. So, I don't know. Let's see here. Washington State. In a word, no.
I did think I was gonna buy, like, because I've gotten pretty into just like electric bikes and whatnot, and I really like Super 73, and they're coming out with their first like motorcycle style bike that is gonna do like put up numbers or whatever. And I remember thinking about it, and I was like, maybe that would be a good alternative for me, but I know better than to have like that much power sitting under me and the ability to actually get on the highway. I would feel too stoked one day and just want to do it, and I just can't do that anymore. I'm too old.
I gotta say,
reflexes.
I gotta say, man, like okay, a couple things that I want to talk about riding really quick, because there's it's like this life affirming. Every second that you're on a bike is life affirming. Every decision that you make is to save your life, and you're playing defense the entire time. And there's something just so meditative about that in a lot of ways, when you put yourself at risk like that, and you just need to focus 100%. And like, I never had an issue. Well, I shouldn't say never had an issue. There were some times where like my mind would drift, and I'd go, oh, nope, I'm right here. This is where I'm at right now. And I think that practice was very meditative for me. Like I mentioned, ADHD brain going off, being able to focus on a singular thing, survival. And so that's one aspect of it. The other thing that I'll bring up, just by the way, is, you'd come onto a freeway on-ramp and you'd be like, oh, traffic, but not for me. And you just get over and start lane splitting, and you just get to wherever you need to go in the same amount of time. And so that was like one of the reasons why I got it in the first place, because congestion in California is so bad to where, if I was going to work, and by the way, parking, this is back when I worked at women's handbag store, and parking was so bad in that parking lot that I just, like roll up on a curb, lock it, and go. So there were multiple reasons for me to do it. One, to get to work on time and avoid traffic, or to mitigate traffic, I should say. And then two, would be for parking. There are different parking options for motorcycles that you can do when you're not doing that. And so, yeah, I'd have to leave a couple minutes early to throw on and off my gear before work, but I wouldn't have to leave an hour early to go 15 minutes down the highway, sit in traffic, right? Like that's where I think the pros and cons to it for me were.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I considered the electric bike myself, because like I got rid of my car last year. And there's been some things I wanted to do recently that would just feel like it'd be nice just to, zip down to go kickboxing, or zip down to the store to grab groceries while Lisa's out or whatever. And I may still end up doing it just like an e-bike that does, only like 35, not like the straight motorcycle version. Mm-hmm. Because of that just like convenience of not because there's plenty of routes around here, which is kind of cool. It does take more like time, but there's plenty of ways you can kind of get around having to get on the highway with like an e-bike and stuff like that. So there's potential.
Yeah. I think that like that type of mobility where you're able to go faster than you would than just walking or running, or I'm talking like hoverboards or one wheels, or what is the safest way that you can get from within a 5-mile radius? Because at least in Southern California, you can get to a lot of things within a 5-mile radius, no matter where you're at.
Oh yeah,
that hair is still there, by the way. I don't know
Still just hanging out.
I was telling Blake before the show, there's a hair stuck in my teeth. And I can't get it out. So I did that whole show with the hair stuck in my teeth. But yeah, I mean, the solving that. We did a whole episode on this. Do you remember?
What, trying to deal with how to like help with traffic congestion by using
Well, it was the sprawl.
scooters and stuff.
It was the sprawl where basically the inequalities about sprawl and how not designing suburbs around having everything that you need there is really detrimental, because then you force people to get on the freeway to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think this was one of the first episodes that Barry listened to.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know, just solving that problem would go a long way, I think, for the environment, first off. But by the way, Mark Rober put out a new video recently. You see this video is on what are they called? They're called the Zip. Is it Zipline? Is that it?
I have no idea. Who are you talking about?
A YouTuber.
Yeah, you got me there. I do not know.
So it's Zipline. And this drone is really cool. And it goes. I remember I was talking about the McDonald's drones too. Remember that? You remember that one?
Yep. Yeah, I remember, because
there's
that would have been so fun to try, because Uber Eats is doing that thing, or thinking about it.
So Zipline, I'll just recant this video. So Zipline is developing a technology that actually solves a lot of problems that the delivery drones are experiencing, right? No one wants a really noisy drone on their patio, right? And that
the horrors.
It could like decapitate somebody or something with those big blades, right? So the Zipline solution, what they have, is they come out with the drone and then they drop a drone from it.
Oh, literally zipline it down.
And it has propulsion systems on board to go like this to help guide it, right? So if you have something underneath an awning that you need to get under, it drops it down, pushes it forward, and then lands on it. It's like a standalone drone just on a tether. And then when it needs to go, it just and goes away. And so that way you're keeping the traffic up high, and then all the propulsion systems on here are just for lateral adjustment, and they're behind like screens, so that way you can't like get your hand caught in it and knocked off. So that's kind of cool that it does that, right? And then you think about all these fast food companies that could do that and employ something like that, where you're no longer having a DoorDash person drive you, just a little tiny meal and putting all that pollution into the air. Same thing with like medicine. I think we talked about this with respect to medicine. Zipline.
Yeah, various like emergency drones or whatever.
Yeah. And so I don't know. It's a really cool piece of technology. If you have the time, go check out that Mark Rober video. It's really cool. I learned a lot about it and think it would be really, really cool if they get this nailed. Because I mean, like, that's such a cool concept, man. Drop it off and then it comes right back up and keeps going.
I wonder, do you know if it's piloted or is it autonomous?
Autonomous.
Wild. Yeah, that's hitting somebody in the face.
Well, presumably it would have sensors on board that would solve that issue.
Yeah, that's hitting somebody in the face at least once. It's a really awesome concept, and I think it does get around the idea of like, because there's no way around the problem with the rotors, right? Because you just need the power and all that stuff. And
then you bring this big old thing to come land on your patio, and it's just like, nope.
The aliens are coming.
This thing is super small. It's super tiny, and it just drops out. Like, I'm telling you, go look at this video. It's awesome.
Yeah, I watched it while you were describing it, or I watched their promo video describing it. Yeah, it looks pretty sick.
It's really neat.
And I love and I don't know, this is probably good marketing. I will not, but I don't want to chalk it up to that. I love that they are trying, at least in their like splash designs, It's not just about like getting Amazon packages in the US to people. It looks like there's a desire to use it in, underprivileged countries as well to help make things more readily available. So I think that's pretty sick.
Yeah. It's like I said, go watch that video. It's pretty good. Well, hey, any famous last words, Blake? Because I think we're wrapping up.
No, it's been good. Thank y'all. Thank you, Alexandria and Barry, for the fun comments. That was great addition to the show. Except for Barry, I don't need to laugh during the show. Thank you very much. And Nick, I hope that hair in your tooth gets out.
Me too, man.
Lives its own life.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week. Until then, bye-bye, and take care of yourself. Are you tired of boring lectures and textbooks on human factors and UX? Well, grab your headphones and get ready for a wild ride with the Human Factors Minute podcast. Each minute is like a mini crash course packed with valuable insights and information on various organizations, conferences, usability methods, theories, models, certifications, tools, and much more. We'll take you on a journey through the fascinating world of human factors, from the ancient history to the latest trends and developments. Listen in as we explore the field and discover new ways to enhance the user experience. From the Think Aloud protocol to the critical incident technique, focus groups, iterative design, we'll make sure that you're the smartest person in the room. Tune in on the 10th, the 20th, and the last day of every month for a new and interesting tidbit related to human factors. Don't miss out on the Human Factors Minute podcast. Your